Hey there, everybody. Welcome into the ESPN FC studios. We got Casey Keller, Stuart Robson, Steve Nichols, Sebastian Salazar here with you. Gab Marcotti waiting in the wings as well. Lots of drama to delve into in this show. All the stuff going on with Diego Costa. But we got to start with the biggest news of all. Shocking news. PSG reportedly willing to pay a 222 million euro buyout clause to bring Neymar over from Barcelona. How real is this, though? Let's go to the man himself, Gab Marcotti. Gab, what do you make of this rumor? Any truth here? Could we really see Neymar leave the camp now?
Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, first of all, this story originally reported by us, who, of course, are a Madrid daily, so you might wonder if there's a little bit of mischief going on there. But the way the story goes is that, Paris Saint-Germain, who, of course, did not go out and buy Aubameyang when they had the opportunity to, when it looked like it was a done deal, could they be saving up to go and get Neymar? You would have to go and presumably either hit his release clause, which is about 220 million euros, round about $250 million, obviously far and away a world record. You'd have to at least come close to that. You'd have to give Neymar an absolute truckload of money. The thing, and obviously Neymar would because it's a release clause, Neymar would obviously want to go, and he'd need to turn his back on Barcelona. The thinking is that Neymar might want to do this because obviously with Messi extending his deal, he's going to be playing second fiddle there at least for another 3-4 years. He's got a World Cup coming up at Paris Saint-Germain. He'd be the main man. Also, in terms of the fee, don't forget Barcelona heavily linked to Marco Verratti as well. You wonder if maybe it wouldn't be a players plus cash type situation involving maybe Verratti, maybe Marquinhos as well, to get the actual cash element down. One final thing on this, and my gut instincts tell me this is all about getting a new deal for Neymar, but it is true that back in May, Neymar's people approached a number of clubs, including Manchester United and Chelsea, about this possibility as well. I wouldn't be surprised if that's when the original seed for Paris Saint-Germain was planted as well.
Well, guys, playing second fiddle to Lionel Messi doesn't sound all that bad. Reason enough to leave Barcelona if you're Neymar?
No. What makes Neymar think leaving Barcelona and going somewhere else means that he wins? This is all about the Ballon d'Or, supposedly. What makes him think that he can go to PSG and win a Ballon d'Or there? Listen, he's always going to be second behind Messi. Everybody's going to be second behind Messi. So why don't you just stay where you are and play with the best players? Do you want to play with Messi and Suarez? Or do you want to play with Rabiot, Cavani? I know where I would play.
What do you think? Negotiating tactic here?
It sounds like it. I mean, he's not going to lose his place, is he, in the Barcelona side? He plays on that left-hand side of a front three. He's got the place himself. I can't see any reason why he'd want to go to PSG other than for money. But I think he'd get his contract bumped up at Barcelona, and a good reason for him to stay.
Yeah, it sounds like they're trying to make a little maneuver on the backside, trying to just drive a little cost up, get a new deal, and go from there. But it is you've got a very good working relationship in that front three. His numbers have been fantastic at Barcelona. Every year they're in a shout of winning the title, winning the Champions League. I see no reason why, unless, look, if somebody comes up with a ridiculous 222 million plus, I would assume
I don't think his game will improve at PSG.
No, certainly not.
His game will improve.
In a World Cup year, that would matter, right? I mean, his game's already pretty solid, though.
As Casey said, there's three players that have got a good understanding. I don't think it's not as if they don't get on with each other. He's got his place in the team. He can run with the ball as much as he likes. He can play little 1-2s. He's an outstanding player, and he should stay at Barcelona.
Gab, is there any sense here that Neymar is really, honestly unhappy at Barcelona?
I don't think he's unhappy. I just think it's a career decision. Would there be a better opportunity elsewhere? I mean, Stevie mentioned the Ballon d'Or there. Stevie, maybe you forgot, but it may be true that everybody's behind Messi, but the guy who won the Ballon d'Or last year, and in fact, I believe the year before as well, does not play with Lionel Messi, and that would be one Cristiano Ronaldo. So maybe Neymar figures that, if he goes to Paris Saint-Germain, if the team is built around them, if they're successful in Europe, then and he has a good World Cup.
How are they going
Why
to build?
not?
How are they going to build a team around him? Is financial fair play just being cut and disbanded? Because they'll have no money left to buy anybody to build a team around them. But PSG's problem isn't scoring goals. PSG's problem is keeping it at the back of their own net. I don't see Neymar playing centre-back, do you?
Well, Ibrahimovic did win a Ballon d'Or and was extremely successful at PSG.
Well, Ibrahimovic is neither here nor there. Ibrahimovic isn't Neymar. But I think more to the point, though, is that this has to go hand in hand with the World Cup. Obviously, Ibrahimovic wasn't playing for Brazil in the World Cup in 2018. But I think another element to this is you mentioned financial fair play there. If you can put players into the mix, because we've heard of 60, 70 million euro valuation for Verratti. I don't think Marquinhos is going to be far behind that. Those are two players that Barcelona have looked long and hard at in the past. If you can put those two guys together with a package of, I don't know, pulling figures out of thin air, 50, 60 million in cash, all of a sudden you could be getting two very good pieces to your puzzle and a little bit of cash back to go and sign Neymar's replacement.
All right, so the Neymar saga just beginning. The Diego Costa saga just will not end. It is taken to social media now. This is an Instagram live video, which Stevie can explain to you very, very well. He's in his hometown in Brazil. He's been excused from Chelsea preseason trip to Asia. He's wearing an Atletico Madrid shirt. At one point, Cesc Fabregas, in the message chain, sends a greeting, and he says, "Hey, give Antonio Conte a hug for me." I think tongue-in-cheek. What do we make of this? The antics seem to be surprising and yet not when we think about the player involved.
Well, I don't think Diego Costa's got any hopes of playing back at Chelsea. Antonio Conte doesn't want him, and Diego Costa wants to go to Atletico Madrid. I think that's as simple as that. And he's got no relationship with Conte now that he sent the text, and he's not wanted within the squad. He's not training with Chelsea, so he's not going to harm any sort of relationships with the other players. I mean, it's a strange thing to do, but you can understand why he's doing it.
If you're Diego Costa, what do? The manager's told you he wants nothing to do with you. You're on 100 and whatever grand a week. Guess what I'm doing? I'm going partying as well. I'm sticking anybody's shirt on.
Are you doing it in such a public way?
Why not?
I'm just asking.
In my opinion...
There's a man that when he was playing for Air wore a Liverpool shirt while he was still playing for Air United.
Yeah, so I was. I was on 10 quid a week there. No. Listen... He has been, in my opinion, he has been pretty much humiliated by Conte. Getting a message to tell a player like him, "You're no good to me, I don't want you." Guess what? You should not be surprised that this guy is out enjoying himself. And quite frankly, I have no problem with it.
But Casey, I might suggest that this is the type of behavior that has made him persona non grata at Chelsea. If you keep this up, it may end the same way wherever you go next.
Well, what were the goals he scored?
Well, he scored a lot of goals, but there's a point where when somebody else is looking at him, and let's say it's not Atletico Madrid, and somebody else is thinking, hey, maybe we can come in for a year or two, we can keep him focused, and he's already saying, well, I only want to go one place, and if Atletico don't have the money, well, right now they're on a transfer ban, I'm pretty sure. So they can't bring him in if they want to, and he's flaunting around in another jersey.
And why do you think that Conte doesn't want Diego Costa? It's not because of his play. It's
because
of his antics. It's because of the way he behaves on the field as well, the way he almost gets himself sent off every week. How you have to control one player when you actually want to be controlling the whole squad. And that's the main problem.
Sure. You don't go getting rid of players like him without having somebody there ready.
Depends what sort of coach you are. If you're a coach that wants discipline on the field and you want to know how your team's going to play and you go out on the training field every day and try and get that system of play and you've got one player who doesn't really want to toe the line, that's a major problem.
But you don't go and get rid of him when you don't have anything else to come in. I mean, surely that's got to be page one of the rule book.
That's maybe his problem with the Chelsea board at the moment, the Chelsea hierarchy.
So why are you killing the rest of the team then? Because that's all he's doing. He's killing himself. He's killing the fans. He's killing the rest of the team because they're going to start the season with a centre forward the way it's going. They're not going to have Hazard either. I mean, you talk about Conte sticking his foot in his mouth.
I think he's had a bad summer in some ways with Diego Costa and one or two other players that seem as though they want to leave, and he hasn't got any players in at the moment, so it's a bit of a problem.
All right, let's get another perspective on this. We'll send it out to our tag team in LA. Dan Thomas, Craig Burley.
Thank you very much, Seb. There was no way Costa was going to go quietly, was there?
Look, he's like a big baby in this, but dancing around in an Atletico Madrid shirt. He's a grown man, for God's sake. But I kind of understand some of it when a manager with Antonio Conte's experience sends you a text in the summer and says you're no longer wanted. I would be miffed at that as well.
Yeah.
I really would be annoyed. But I don't think I'd be dancing about in a shirt in a team that I may or may not want to go to. That being said, this has been rumbling on from exactly 12 months ago when Chelsea were last here in the US on pre-season. So it's unsurprising that it's coming to a head, but it is surprising the way both the manager and the player are going about it.
You just look at this summer as a whole, as a Chelsea supporter, you'd be concerned, wouldn't you? With all these rumours of infighting and Conte being unhappy. Yeah. Missing out on Lukaku as well to Manchester United.
I don't think Chelsea fans will be too upset about that, but I think they'll be expecting a big money player to come in or a big name player to come in, which has been reported over the last couple of days. Let's see if it happens or not. But I would be slightly concerned because the rumblings from behind with the management and the people behind the scenes, that relationship is quite worrying. They have made a good signing in Bakayoko from Monaco, very, very physical and dynamic player. I like that signing, but there needs to be more. And this rumbles back to a couple of years ago when Mourinho had his problems. Yeah. Didn't get the players he wanted pre-season, ended up went out and signing Pedro. He wasn't on his initial list. Then things went downhill. He started moaning and groaning and obviously got the sack. I don't quite see it getting to that level, but I would be slightly concerned after so much success last year.
It's the problem, they've kind of lost that momentum, haven't they?
Well, that boat was sailing so smoothly, particularly that 15-game winning streak. Everyone was, and he was managing everything great. But it seems this time off in the summer, everybody's bored. They don't want to start arguing with people, start fighting with people. I mean, who'd know anything about that? So it seems, whether a bit of it is actually true and some of it is just newspaper reports to keep the back pages going, I don't know. But what I would say, there is no smoke without fire. But Chelsea need to beware, because the Man Uniteds that are here and the Cities and all these other teams are going to spend money, and they can't be left short.
As you mentioned, Manchester United are here on the UCL campus, as are Real Madrid. A little later on, we'll be discussing Gareth Bale and what a big season it is for him coming up at the club.
All right, thanks, guys. Hear from Dan and Craig a little bit later in the show. Coming up, Wayne Rooney out the door at Old Trafford, but seems like he still has Manchester United very much on his mind. That's next. You want the latest on rumors, transfers, and signings? ESPNFC.com, the spot for breaking transfer news all summer long. ESPNFC.com. All right, we showed you these quotes from Wayne Rooney in yesterday's show, but worth revisiting to give you some context. He was actually asked about Romelu Lukaku and the pressure at Manchester United. Here's the quote. There are standards that you have to keep when you are at Manchester United. That came from the manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, when I went to United. It was then passed down through the dressing room by the likes of Giggsy, Gary Neville, and Scholesy. Rooney went on. Over the last few years, it was down to me and Michael Carrick to keep those new players maintaining those standards. That became difficult over the last few years with some of the players who joined the club. Most of that statement, guys, would seem to be rather innocuous, but it's that last sentence that really is getting under people's skin. Should they be upset, though, Stuart?
Not really. I think he's having a go at two sets of new players that have come in that haven't trained hard enough or haven't had the right sort of attitude to make Manchester United or continue Manchester United being a great club. And he's also, in some way, having a go at the managers. Louis van Gaal, did he get the discipline right amongst the players to keep those standards high? That's what he's saying in that comment.
Yeah, because as a player, you can only keep the standards in the locker room set by the manager, because you can go have a go at a player for not working hard. And this is how we have to do things at this club. But then when the manager just lets him do what he wants to do, you're kind of secondary. The player's like, what are you talking about? I can do what I want. Look, the manager's letting me do whatever I want.
Gab, I hear you're desperate to chime in. What do you got?
Look, I have a lot more time of this. If you're gonna throw people under the bus, then come out and name names. You're not employed by the club anymore. And if you want to talk about maintaining standards, do you maintain standards by putting on boxing gloves and squaring up to Phil Bardsley and almost getting knocked out in your kitchen the way Wayne Rooney did, and then making sure that some of the people there actually film you so everybody can see what a needlessly risky and silly thing you did? Is that how you maintain standards? Not to mention that some of these issues with Rooney actually were going on when Sir Alex was still there. So I don't know if this was a throwaway comment that spun out of control. But look, there have obviously been issues at United, but to go and suddenly blame the newcomers while his own performance when he did play was slipping badly, I don't know. I don't think it's fair to his former teammates.
So Gab says it's sour grapes from Rooney. You agree?
No. Listen, they had a dynasty at Manchester United, and the reason they had a dynasty is because they brought in great players who had great character, who all had desire, and they had a leader in Alex Ferguson. Since Fergie's left, the players they brought in aren't as good as the ones they had, don't have the desire, and they certainly don't have the character. You know, it gets on my goat today that everybody's talking about all these Moneyball things and the money and this and that. When you scout players, one of the first things you should be scouting is what's his character.
But
You don't have to be the greatest player in the world, but
the players aren't being scouted; they're going through agents. So there is no scouting system
So it's
anymore.
missing. So that piece is missing. That's why you end up with a lot of big-name teams like Manchester United over the last 3 or 4 years.
And there's no question.
Who spend a boatload of money on players, but they don't have the guts or the character to actually succeed.
And there's no question that Rooney had, and still probably
issues,
does,
yeah.
has had that little bit of off-the-field issues throughout his career, both at Everton and then when he went to Man U. But when he was in his prime and he was running the show and setting an example on the field, and yes, there was always some little shenanigans off the field, which sometimes builds a bit of team spirit. It's when it crosses the line and
Mourinho said
Mourinho
said the same last year. When he was having a go at the likes of Luke Shaw, he was having a go at the likes of Smalling as well. He was having a go at some of the characters within the squad.
All right, let's take a quick break. Coming up on the other side, the papers in Spain are talking about Gareth Bale and what his future holds at Real Madrid. That discussion next on ESPN FC. Been missing out on Major League Soccer for the last week. Back with a vengeance on Friday. Orlando City and Atlanta United, a fledgling Southeast rivalry. Catch it Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Inter Milan manager Luciano Spalletti seems resigned to losing Ivan Perisic to Manchester United. When asked about the Croatian on Monday, he said, "Perisic, you journalists know everything. It's all out in the open." It is all out in the open. So, Gab Marcotti, what's going on here? Because late last week, the story was Inter was not going to sell Perisic. Now the deal seems as good as done?
Well, look, it's all part of negotiation. As of right now, the deal is not done yet. But this is something that Perisic's people have been working on for a very long time. We're going, I think, all the way back to April, actually. And then we've had this back and forth over the price, over the demands. I think United certainly got cold feet, and when Inter were demanding crazy money, there's a price at which they're comfortable, and as of right now, we're not there yet. Equally, though, Inter are under a financial fair play voluntary agreement. They have to finish this season at break-even level. The only way that they're going to do that is if they sell some assets, and that's why I think, the longer this goes on, I would imagine the more things turn to United's favor. And I also don't think United necessarily need Perisic. He'd be a bonus if they did sign him, and so I think they're holding out for the price they want.
Over on ESPNFC.com right now, our Eduardo Alvarez has the latest on Alvaro Morata, but not where he should go, instead, why he should indeed stay at Real Madrid. That's on ESPNFC.com. Speaking of Real Madrid, Gareth Bale has told Marca he has not thought about leaving Madrid. He also, in a wide-ranging interview, did acknowledge it's a big season coming up for him at the Bernabeu. Here's our Real Madrid tag team, Dan Thomas, Craig Burley, and Craig Burley's glasses from Los Angeles.
Gareth Bale and the rest of the Real Madrid team training behind us then here at UCLA. He's not wrong though, Craig. It is a big season for the Welshman.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose every season at Real Madrid is a big season because of the pressure you're under, but particularly because the way that it finished for him last year from sort of just pre-Christmas onwards, where he had that ankle injury, had the operation, said himself he came back too soon. We discussed if he was going to play in the Champions League final. He didn't. He was on the bench, which was the correct thing to do. So he'll want to make sure that first and foremost, and they're doing all the stretching and whatnot behind us, this is where it all starts, to make sure you are super fit for the season and you can try and keep the injuries down to a minimum.
Now, here's the thing. There are a lot of people in Spain would prefer to see Isco starting ahead of Gareth Bale, and for good reason.
Well, because he's Spanish.
Well, obviously, the fact that Isco's Spanish does make a little bit of a difference. They want to see someone from their home nation do well.
Correct.
But it's not only that. They were brilliant in the Champions League final with Isco leading the line.
Yeah, but you can't deny Bale gives you another facet to the team, and that is power and pace and dynamism down the flanks or even through the middle. So they are different type of players. I can understand that. Bale's had a love-hate relationship with the supporters. He's not been helped at times, particularly a couple of years ago with Ronaldo gesticulating. But I think he's come through all that. I think he has really grown at Madrid. This is one of the most, and you know, this is one of the most difficult places to go and handle the pressure anywhere in world football. And I think he's done that. You look at the success he's had in Spain domestically, you look at the Champions League victories that he's had, and you look at some of his performances. Why on earth would he want to give that up and come back to England? Because there's been rumours that, one or two are looking at him, but I think he still thinks he's got a lot to offer here in Madrid.
I suppose the big question is, Isco's fit, Bale's fit, who does Zidane play? This is it, isn't this? This is the problem if you're Gareth Bale. You've just seen the side win the Champions League without you, basically.
Look, I don't need to tell you, it's well documented. There's a lot of things hanging over Ronaldo, on and off the field. He's getting older as well. There's going to be injuries. Zinedine Zidane knows since he's taken over, he needs a squad. It's as simple as that. So they're different type of players. I'm a big fan of Gareth Bale. Mm-hmm. I'm a huge fan. I think when he's fully fit, he has got so much to offer. If I'm playing against either player and they're both up to full steam, I would hate to play against Bale more than Isco, just because of the pace and power in the modern game, and that's why I think he's such a much vaunted player by a lot of people, but also why I don't think Zinedine Zidane wants to get rid of him, Dan.
Greg, thank you very much. Keep an eye out this week. We'll have an exclusive sit down with Gareth Bale, but for now, back to the studio.
Here's a look at Gareth Bale's numbers. In La Liga last season, just 17 starts and only 7 goals. Of course, a campaign marred by injuries. Gab Marcotti, we just heard from Craig Burley, who essentially says Gareth Bale, when healthy, an obvious first-choice starter at Real Madrid. You agree?
I mean, yeah. I think Bale at his best is better than what we've seen from Isco right until this year, if you're talking about individuals. But I think if you look at the impact that Isco has on the team that he certainly had last season, we saw in the Champions League final as well, then I think it becomes a different ballgame. And I think Zidane sees it that way as well. It doesn't mean he's going to pick Isco over Bale in the starting lineup, but I think Real Madrid's willingness to even set a price on Morata, to me, suggests that they're toying with the idea, possibly, of letting Morata go and figuring out a way to maybe spread those frontline minutes among Ronaldo, Benzema, Isco, and Bale. Plus, of course, Asensio and the others.
Gareth Bale, one of many potential topics on tomorrow's show. Stuart and Casey are back, as is Alejandro Moreno.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million. What color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo!
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Here's a look at Renato Sanchez's career resume. My, how things can change in the course of a year. After the Euros in 2016, highly heralded prospect going over to Bayern Munich, and then he made just 6 starts in the Bundesliga last year. So what's next for Sanchez? Well, apparently, Gab Marcotti, a potential move to AC Milan. Some fire where there's smoke here?
Well, they've been linked with everybody. They've been buying everybody. Why not him too? I think from Bayern's perspective, Carlo Ancelotti doesn't necessarily think Renato Sanchez is ready to contribute in the Bayern he has in mind. And so from the club's perspective, they say, well, we want to develop him. I think Bayern are thinking loan or maybe some deal with a buyback option. But I also wonder, does he really fit Milan the way they are right now? And I wonder if this isn't maybe a way to maybe prod some other potential suitors out into the open, because if I'm Milan, I've got a big budget, but it's not unlimited, and I want to get that center forward before I go spending money on Renato Sanchez.
Stuart, you watched Sanchez at the Euros last summer, followed him closely. Does a move away from Bayern Munich right now make sense?
He's got to move away at the moment. As Gab just said, Ancelotti doesn't fancy him or doesn't see him in the side at the moment. He had a great Euros last year. He had a poor under-21s this year. He wasn't the same player, playing on the left-hand side of a midfield three, hardly got involved in the games. He wasn't as dynamic as he was at the last championships. He's got to move, and move very quickly, I think.
Had a lot of fun so far on today's show. We'll do it again tomorrow, Tuesday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find us on ESPN2.
One man who just needs no identification, George Best.
For a time there, he was the best player in the world.
He was just sensational. I'd never seen anything like him.
He became a pop star footballer.
He had so much going for him, and all of a sudden it just became too much and just let himself down.
I'm a complete wreck in every way.
George Best, all by himself, premieres Thursday, but if you can't wait, you can find it right now on the Watch ESPN app. Stevie, got a good George Best story for us?
George, well, my first boots were George Best boots, and I actually ended up playing against him when he came up to Scotland. He played for a team called Hibernia, and I was at Ayr United. So I played against him, bought his boots as a kid, and had the pleasure of playing against him. What a player.
A true icon, no?
Yeah, I mean, if he was playing the modern era, we'd be talking about him in the same sort of breath as Lionel Messi, because he had the same sort of skills. He could go past people with the ball, people trying to kick him. And remember, they were playing in mud and on ice at times. He was a magnificent player. He could score goals, he could cross the ball. And he was a good-looking boy as well. I think that was half the problem. Like yourself said.
Problem, yeah.
I did a couple programs with George back when I first got to England, and was kind of one of them was, I think, like a question and answer thing with a group of people. Another one was a TV program, and yeah, everyone would always, oh, yeah, was he sober? Was he this? And yeah, he was very professional when I did the shows with him. But you could see there was that little twitch in the hand, and he was, but nice man, and I had a great time with him. We talked a lot about his time in America, and he was a good guy.
Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, the debut. That's right before the Manchester Derby down in Houston. Let's change gears here a little bit. The Gold Cup. Now, I don't know why, but our producer asked me to fill out a bracket from the quarterfinals on for the Gold Cup. So let's go through it. First game, Costa Rica, Panama Wednesday. That's in Philadelphia. I got Costa Rica going through. U.S. going through as well. Mexico over Honduras. Now, I don't know if it's just because I'm a pessimistic Mexico fan, but I actually don't really believe that Mexico will easily get through Honduras, if at all. And I got Canada over Jamaica. This might surprise some people. I'm picking the U.S. to win just because they got so much more of a chunk of that A team than Mexico does. This Mexico team, Casey.
Now they do.
Yes, now they do.
Now
with the reinforcements
with the
brought
reinforcements
in.
that came in. The only question mark is how oftentimes do you see in a tournament where you need a couple games to get yourself right? Now, you got a group of guys coming back in. There's been tons of changes. Can the U.S. mesh quickly?
Hey there, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Extra Time. Hashtag FC Extra Time to get us your questions. Casey Keller, Stuart Robson, Steve Nichols, Sebastian Salazar with you. First one's for you, Robbo, our guest of honor. Does Arsenal win Wenger's prestigious top 4 trophy if they keep Sanchez, that is based on the current squad?
Based on the current squad, I think they can get into the top 4 and will do if they can keep Sanchez. But I don't think they're going to keep Sanchez, and they will end up just outside the top 4.
No Sanchez, no chance at top 4.
That's my view.
You agree?
Absolutely. Everything he says, I agree with.
That's not always the case with you.
Always great television.
Always.
You think the same?
I think unless they bring in several players if Sanchez leaves. I think if you look at the current squad with him gone, it will be difficult to be in the top 4, yes.
Connor has a good question here, one we were going to kind of get into the show, but ran out of time. Which striker, Morata, Aubameyang, or Bellotti, gives Chelsea the best chance to defend their title? Who are those 3 you like most?
If I was Chelsea, I would take Morata.
Really?
I think of the 3 players that you mentioned, he's the guy who fits the Costa mould more than any of the other 2. He's a guy that will score goals, and he's a guy that will hold it up and link the play.
Aubameyang's certainly more proven, though.
I wouldn't say that's the case. When Morata played for Juventus, I thought he was absolutely outstanding. He led the line well, he can hold up the play, he can link up the play, he can run in behind, he can score goals. I agree with everything Stevie says. I always do.
See?
All right, let's get a different voice then, since everybody here on the panel agrees. Gabbo, what do you think between those 3 options? Who's the best fit at Chelsea?
Say Morata, Gab. Go on.
You obviously have been watching the show recently because I was asked this question, and like Stevie, I said Morata. So sorry, I'm with Stevie and Robbo.
All right, there it is. 3 for 3. Casey, you want to make it 4 for 4?
Come on, go with somebody different.
No, I mean...
You were telling me off air you loved Aubameyang.
Look, I like Aubameyang, no question. But I think to your point, I think you make a very valid point. You look at the way Chelsea play, the way they just want to counterattack very quickly, and I think Morata fits that role better than any of the others. It's pretty clear.
Interesting either or here. Agüero to Chelsea or Alexis Sanchez to Manchester City. Which is most likely this transfer window? Let's go to Gab. I think there was some news more recently about this Agüero to Chelsea rumor, Gab. Anything to it?
Well, I don't think it's neither or. I think the only way that this happens is if it's, or the most likely way is if it's a both. If City pick up Alexis Sanchez, that frees up Sergio Agüero to move, and then maybe moves to Chelsea. I think that's the logic there. As of right now, I think it's more likely that Alexis Sanchez won't return to Arsenal than Agüero moving, but. Will be fascinating. I don't think this musical chairs would be out of the question.
All right, next up, Stevie, coming to you on this one, a Liverpool feel. Ivan Perisic or Mo Salah? Who's better and who gives you more bang for your buck?
Salah.
Not just because he was signed by Liverpool.
No, it gives you goals. Perisic doesn't give you goals.
No?
Salah gives you goals. The game's about putting the ball in the back of the net. I'm going to go for the guy that puts the ball in the back of the net 10 times out of 10.
And I think he fits the bill better at Liverpool than Perisic does at Manchester United. I'm not sure where Perisic will fit in, but I certainly can see Salah doing a good job for Liverpool.
Steve wants to know, Virgil van Dijk and Naby Keita, do Liverpool get these transfers over the line? I think I've seen something from Leipzig that they have no interest, regardless of the price, in selling Keita.
I'm going to say that there's a good possibility that both might happen.
Who do you want more?
Well, I think Keita is more expensive, just maybe, but I think he gives you more. I mean, box to box, he can score goals. I mean, he's somebody that maybe you can put the team on his back in a couple of years when he's a little bit more experienced. He's still only 22.
Is he the Stevie Nicol of a few years ago, 25 years ago?
No, he's...
Box to box, loads of energy, dynamism, goals.
I want to hear what Gab has to say. Either of these two getting over the line for Liverpool?
I think Liverpool are playing a waiting game here. Obviously, with Van Dijk, they also have to be a little bit careful. But look, Southampton and Leipzig can go out and say whatever they want to say about not wanting to sell. But I think the reality is it's extremely difficult to go and keep an unhappy player. So, and that's why players go and force moves. So I think at the right price, they can get them. But I'll tell you what, if it's going to be sort of that's 50 to 70 range for those two guys, I don't see how Liverpool can spend all that money without sacrificing one of their other assets to go and pay for this.
It is monster money this late, isn't it?
It is. I mean, Keita, I think it's worth it. When you see what he did for Leipzig last year, that dynamism we were talking about, it suits the way Klopp wants to play at Liverpool. That closing the ball down and breaking forward. So if there was one, if they could only get one, that would be the player I'd go for. And
it's difficult. I mean, to Gab's point, you have a player with an opportunity to go to big clubs. And they don't come around all the time because it has to fit at the right time for that club and for the player. And what I think upsets a player more than anything is when he knows there's an opportunity to go to that big club and then his team overprices him and it falls through. So that's where players get upset. And if these players have the opportunity to go to a club like Liverpool...
And usually have a poor season if they stay the next
Correct.
season.
Yeah.
All right, that's all the questions I've got. We'll see you tomorrow. Most of this crew returns. Not sure about Gab, but Casey. Stuart will be back. Stevie will miss you. You're irreplaceable.
Why is your nose growing?
Can't get any bigger.
Tell you what. How
Tuesday,
blatant a lie was that?
Thank you, Robbo, for squeezing that in. We've almost done a whole segment without making fun of me in extra time. Just missed it. Tuesday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, ESPN2. We will see you then.